Oh no. Anyways. All unionized Dragon Age Dreadwolf Q&A workers have been laid off. One reaps as one sows, I suppose. But, okay. As funny as that is, and this is a bit of a double-layered shit sandwich here, as the unionization part is absolutely an element of it, but these were also contract workers, mind you. And contract workers are the very first to be fired in virtually every single scenario, for the simple reason that they are the easiest to fire. They're the quickest cost-cutting measure, quite simply. But there is something a little bit more interesting to delve into beyond merely just the funny part of it, namely that this is a bit of an ongoing controversy. Former BioWare employees suing for adequate severance. We are struggling to understand why BioWare is shortchanging us. Well, here's the thing, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, Dreadwolf is vaporware and it's probably never going to come out, and if it does, it's probably going to be absolute unfiltered garbage because it's taken that long to get through development. That seems to be an almost slam dunk assumption at this point. And two, there's no more money anymore. There literally just isn't any money anymore. BioWare was one of those companies that made very progressive video games for a very progressive audience. Read tiny audience. That had pivoted quite far away from their original audience, in fact. They are one of many companies that have survived in large parts of investor money on ESG and such other nonsense. And now that money is very difficult to get by, it isn't just BioWare that is looking for any way whatsoever to cut the fat. Be that unionized contract workers that are going to cause endless trouble for the company, or simply seeing if they can get away with shortchanging some people that they are firing. This is a thing across the entire industry, not just video games, but the tech industry in general. Tech layoffs, particularly in the security industry, continue unabated in the third calendar quarter of 2023 as tech companies look to readjust growth plans, prepare for a possible economic downturn, or in at least one case, a bankruptcy, even as many other firms plan to increase their employee headcounts. Now, this is the thing right here. The economy right now is not in a very good place. We somehow, with a squeak, managed to get through COVID without a full-scale collapse, and in large parts that was due to the fact that we use enormous amounts of government money in subsidies and propping up the economy, which was a decent short-term solution because, well, it worked. And if it wasn't for then the continuation of the forever war policy, first in Ukraine and now later on in Israel, etc., we might have gotten away with it. But now inflation is really starting to catch up with us. And those who have a lot of money who were previously willing to sink it into literally anything, well, they're looking at their cash right now and thinking, I better not squander this on stupid ESG bullshit. Which in turn leads to other entertainment companies, like EA, laying off 6% of its workers. Now, 6% doesn't sound like a whole lot until you realize, I think EA, 13,000 employees. So that's about 800 people losing their jobs. This, of course, we also see with Creative Assembly and Sega recently. They poured a lot, and this really is the arc example right here. They poured, according to some reports, £100 million into hyenas. Now, I don't know about that. That sounds like a lot for what they had, but, you know, okay. For sake of argument, let's assume that's correct, right? £100 million into a video game that was perhaps the most blatant they-them inspired by drag queens in ESG pandering shit you've ever seen. And, well, the market is just dead for that sort of nonsense. They would have had to actually earn their money by selling the video game. And that wasn't going to happen. That was really not going to happen, as the closed beta most thoroughly demonstrated, as nobody gave two shits about the game. And here's another thing too, the £100 million thing, I don't know, it could happen, but if they really had spent £100 million on this, surely they would have put some of that into marketing, right? Because nobody knew about hyenas. It was utterly unknown until it flopped. It is, unironically, better known for its failure than its production or its creation, which is quite the thing, is it not? Good God. And we're also going to see this, and see, here's the thing, this is going to get a lot worse, a hell of a lot worse, as the money begins to dry up yet more and more. Now, some companies have already realized this and have already begun to take measures. See, for all of their flaws, right? Netflix was way ahead of the curve on this. About a year or so ago, they started firing hundreds of employees, primarily amongst their woke ranks, as they put out the now rather infamous statement, "Unless you are willing to be here to make entertainment, you don't have a role at Netflix." Now, even then, we knew for a fact what that was. That was the company beginning to cleanse its ranks of the people who weren't making stuff that people actually wanted to see. And One Piece, my God, I never thought this would be a success. I genuinely did not. Good job, Netflix. You proved me wrong on this one. Is the perfect example of this. Because One Piece, as I said in my review of it, is as close to the source material as you possibly could get within the limitations of a live-action setting. Now, this is a little bit rich right here, though. Co-showrunner reaffirms commitment to respecting source material. If you're adapting something that you legitimately love, fight for what it needs to be. This is the studio that also made Cowboy Bebop, so yeah, there is that, most assuredly. This is a very recently learned lesson, which is retarded in and of itself. Like, we've been telling these studios for ages that if you're going to do live action, well, one, don't, but two, if you absolutely must, you gotta stick as closely to the source material as you possibly can. And One Piece was the actually first entertainment entity that did just that, and voila, it's a rip-roaring success. Again, I stand by my initial analysis that the anime is simply better because it adapts the idea of it better, but, well, as I also said, this appears to be anime for people who hate anime. And that was a surprisingly large percentage of people. Like, actually, straight up, no. I consider that to be a little bit of a prophetic thing, honestly, because I do suspect that there are a lot of people who are starved in the Western market for the kind of storytelling that anime promotes, the non-Western storytelling, the non-woke storytelling, but they look at anime and they have an instinctual and immediate rejection of it. It looks cartoonish, for example, or they simply have a lot of preconceived notions about what anime is. And then when they see an anime show, they go like, well, I'm not going to watch that. No matter what it is, no matter what people tell them it is, it's just like, no, it's anime. I'm not going to watch it. Okay, fair enough. Well, here's anime for you. And it sells. It sells like mad. As Netflix managed to preemptively purge its rank and also managed to slim down its company in anticipation of the layoffs and the economic hardship to come. See, this, unironically, is why Netflix is still the market leader to this day, despite the countless new streaming services trying to compete with them. They simply seem to know a little bit better than the competition what's going on. And again, we're being a bit generous with the praise of Netflix here. They've most certainly produced their fair share of goose eggs as well. God help me, have they? And they've certainly not been immune to the woke mind virus by any stretch of the imagination, but they seem to have woken up from it significantly earlier than the others have. We might even, and this is my optimistic speculation here, right? But Netflix, the whole One Piece thing, might send a little bit of a ripple through the company and go, hold on, what if we did make Cowboy Bebop and we had Faye Valentine be Faye Valentine rather than whoever the hell that was supposed to be? Maybe we just make adaptations of anime and manga and we do it well. My God, it could sell. And hopefully the other companies then will look at that too and go, derp, 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 and continue doing what Netflix did 10 years ago. As the market will require a long term to adjust to this new reality. Honestly, if Netflix manages to produce non-woke content even just 1 or 2 or 3 years before the rest, they're probably going to end up as the sole remaining streaming services after all of the others have collapsed in a market that is already oversaturated and in a market that is no longer willing to subsidize continued failure. Oh. Bring it on, I say. The more companies go bankrupt over this, the better. And seeing as the mass layoffs are not seeming to stop anytime soon, we might finally be seeing the proper burning, the apocalypse of progressive entertainment. Happy days.